He is Luo Qianfan, the young master of a very powerful family cultivating immortals. When he was born, he was already at the finish line. Therefore, he only wants to lie around and enjoy life, having no interest in cultivating immortals. His father is a strong true immortal realm, and he is among the strongest at present. His foundation is so solid that heavenly tribulation cannot harm him. With a single strike, he can split the heavenly tribulation in half, leaving the demon sect in awe. Not only that, but he also has a second uncle who is a peak-level pill master, effortlessly devouring heavenly-grade pills like candy. Whenever he goes outside, he is always protected by the ancestor dragon talisman, and there are many bodyguards lurking in the shadows, silently ensuring his absolute safety. Although he has been assassinated many times, none of the assassins have ever succeeded, because he is surrounded by multiple layers of protection. He also has a crossover system like many others. However, for him, this system is utterly worthless, as he has no desire to cultivate. Despite the system's attempts to scheme many times, all have failed, causing the system to crash repeatedly in need to restart. The story has many more dramatic developments, so now let's all join the admin to read the story. The opening of the novel features a magnificent bamboo forest, creating a very refined atmosphere. Inside the cool bamboo forest, cultivators were gathered together to enjoy tea. A girl with beautiful looks spoke in a way that seemed to mock someone. Since ancient times, in the world of cultivation, the strong have always ruled, venerating the ascended as exceptional. You, Luo Qianfan, rely on your influential family and refuse to make any progress. Yu Yan pointed directly at a young man sitting next to a beauty and loudly declared, "You are indeed a disgrace to our cultivation community, I disdain you." The young man was Luo Qianfan, the heir of the renowned Luo family known for cultivating immortals. He and the girl sitting next to him still did not understand what was happening. The girl stood up, angrily retorted, and asked for her identity. "Which sect do you belong to that dares to be so rude?" Yu Yan insulted Luo Qianfan and responded loudly, "Changyu Fairy, don't look down on me. I detest those with ugly faces who flatter like that." Seeing the argument escalating, several fairies around began to whisper and discuss noisily. "Who is this girl who dares to say Luo young master? Indeed, she is truly foolish. If she angers Luo young master, even the power behind her will likely face disaster. How annoying it is to grow up like this. On what basis can she speak of our Luo young master?" Yu Yan couldn't help but sneer upon hearing these words. "Ha, useless women, what do you know?" As the long-standing young master of the Luo family, Luo Qianfan has encountered all kinds of women in his life. Compared to those who offer themselves only to be forgotten later, men still prefer to conquer women with a challenging nature. Moreover, I have long investigated that Luo Qianfan is gentle, refined, and polite on the outside, never committing acts of violence. As long as the behavior is reasonable, capturing this man would be as easy as flipping a hand. Chang Yu saw that Luo Qianfan remained calm and approached to bow and apologize. "Luo young master, I'm sorry, it was my fault for not choosing the guest properly. I will take this rude person out of here." Luo Qianfan casually replied, "It's all right." Having said that, Luo Qianfan silently recalled his own past. Where had he seen this scene before? It seemed like it was from a classic idol movie during his school days. He had lived for 18 years, and suddenly found that this scene, just like in an idol drama, brought a sense of nostalgia. Looking back at his previous life, since he became aware of things, he had always done what needed to be done. He had to achieve better academic results, get into a better university, find a good job, and spend his whole life doing what he was supposed to do. But it seemed that until now, he had never done anything he truly wanted to do. He had devoted his life to competition, feeling exhausted for a lifetime without knowing for what purpose. When he was reborn, he vowed that in this life he would never compete again. He wanted to live a life that made him happy, he wanted to let go. Thinking this way, Luo Qianfan was able to remain composed in the face of Yu Yan's insults while sipping on his cup of tea. Suddenly, something drew his attention, as a huge system appeared right before his eyes, causing Luo Qianfan to spit out the sip of water he had just taken. The measurement check host encountered an event of ridicule, automatically activating the ultimate competition system. A few fairies nearby watched in fascination as Luo Qianfan spat out a mouthful of water, exclaiming in unison, "Wow, as expected of Luo young master, even spitting water looks so handsome." Chang Yu panicked and quickly asked, "Luo young master, is it because the wine doesn't suit your taste?" Luo Qianfan turned to her and replied, "No, it's fine." He turned back to look at the system, thinking, it seems that others can't see this system. As for the system, he stroked his chin, feeling nothing strange about it. Indeed, in this day and age, systems have become almost standard equipment for crossovers, nothing unusual at all. However, this system is really slow to come. A beautiful girl with 2 rabbit ears and a charismatic personality appeared before him. She is the system. She struck a cool pose and said, "Ultimate competition luck, spiritual energy system for you." Suddenly, she lunged forward and grabbed Luo Qianfan's face, leaving him bewildered. With tears streaming down her face, she shouted at him, "Do you know how I have lived for the past 18 years? After being tightly bound to you and traveling together into this immortal world, I have been waiting to be activated. As long as your host does one competitive thing, it can activate the system. But after 18 years have passed, there hasn't been a single event, not even one." Luo Qianfan understood upon hearing this, so that was the reason. The spiritual energy system changed its expression, smiling at Luo Qianfan, "But everything has passed. Thank you to the woman who mocked you, as it allowed me to activate myself. From now on, the competitive system will support you in your cultivation process. The system can meet any request from the host. Moreover, as long as the host completes competitive events, they can also receive extremely valuable rewards." Luo Qianfan asked her, "Any request?" "Are you sure?" The spiritual energy system confidently replied, "Of course." Luo Qianfan laid her head down and casually requested, "Then can you please remove the current link so I can go home and drink?" The spiritual energy system left me stunned, asking, "What do you mean by breaking the connection?" She panicked and began to talk about the benefits. "Don't you have an insatiable desire for infinite power? Don't you yearn for supreme strength, the ability to turn your palm into clouds and flip it to make it rain? Don't you crave endless wealth? Why not?" In response, she received a blunt reply from Luo Qianfan, "No, no, no, it doesn't matter. I've given up, I no longer have those worldly desires. Moreover, I'm allergic to the concept of competition." The spiritual energy system, seemingly smoking, pointed at Yu Yan's expression as she earlier called him a useless person, saying, "That woman mocked you in front of so many people. Aren't you even a little angry? As long as you complete the task and receive the rewards from the system, you can instantly slap her face." Luo Qianfan, indifferent, replied, "What she said is not wrong. I really am a rotten person who has given up everything." After this statement from Luo Qianfan, she was left speechless, panting with her sweat pouring down. The system then made another remark to grab Luo Qianfan's attention, "But you are a crossover, right?" Luo Qianfan jumped up and asked loudly, "What does it mean to cross over?" leaving the spiritual energy system dumbfounded. Luo Qianfan angrily shouted, "Is it a must for those who cross over to compete frantically? What kind of outdated prejudice is this? This is intentionally provoking a conflict among those who cross over. Watch out for being beaten." Hearing this, the spiritual energy system was left speechless. The system helplessly said to itself, "This little brat, could it be that my record of guiding those who cross over to ascend to the upper world is going to fail at his hands today? How infuriating, just you wait for me." Outside, seeing Luo Qianfan with his hands on his hips acting tough towards someone, Chang Yu called out in confusion, "Luo young master." Luo Qianfan smiled lightly and thought to himself, "It seems that system has released me and given up. Oh, what a joke, I've worked so hard to live again, how could I compete anymore?" Seeing this smile made the cultivators around start murmuring, "Look, Luo young master is smiling coldly, he's angry. It's all because of that woman provoking Luo young master, we won't get dragged into this, will we?" Hearing the gossip, Yu Yan felt a bit tense. She thought to herself, why hasn't he said anything so far? Could it be that the sense of propriety I thought I had is actually making him angry? If not, should I curse a couple more times? At that moment, another person appeared behind her and said, "Fairy is right." He raised his voice, pointing at Luo Qianfan, and said, "Luo Qianfan, I heard that you haven't even passed the foundation establishment stage yet. Besides relying on your family background, what talents do you have?" He turned to Yu Yan, lowering his voice to flatter her. "Fairy, rest assured, from the moment I first saw you, I was immediately captivated by your fearlessness against power. I will always stand by your side." She listened to him and grimaced, secretly cursing, "Rest assured, my foot. Damn it, why are you starting to enjoy the show?" The system girl appeared again, propping her chin up and asking, "So, how much can you endure?" "As long as you complete the competition mission, you can comfortably slap them in the face." Luo Qianfan chuckled softly, thinking, "Want to slap faces? Why should we rely entirely on this system? But anyway, let's show you the position of a system and see how I work." Chang Yu called out loudly, "Someone, take these two outside for me." Luo Qianfan suddenly spoke up, "Wait." She turned back, confused and replied, "Young master." Luo Qianfan slowly sat down and said, "What you both said today has deeply moved me. Since the day I was born, I have wanted to cultivate, and there have always been countless miraculous pills for me to practice with. Whenever I want to have fun, there are innumerable rare treasures for me to indulge in. It can be said that my prominent family background has made me numb. I hate my wealth, make me a person with nothing." This statement left several young masters nearby speechless, looking at Luo Qianfan in shock. Hearing this, why does it sound so arrogant? Meanwhile, the few young women couldn't help but swoon at this statement filled with CEO vibes. Even if the young master is shameless, he is still so handsome. Yu Yan also grimaced at this statement but felt a hint of hope, thinking to herself, "Indeed, I have caught his attention. Although I don't know why, I feel very angry after hearing this. Next, I just need to change my attitude reasonably so that he gradually becomes infatuated with me." Luo Qianfan spoke again, "How about this, I will hire you to remind me constantly for 5,000 spirit stones." This line gave that guy the first shock of his life. Luo Qianfan continued, "What's wrong, is it too little? 10,000 spirit stones every month." The system flying nearby was also taken by surprise. The guy snorted and said, "Do you really think a fairy would stay by your side for just 10,000 spirit stones?" At this moment, Yu Yan firmly slapped him in the face and declared loudly, "Swordsman Yu Yan is willing to live lavishly alongside the young master for a lifetime." Jiang Chuan turned pale when he heard this and called out, "Fairy." The system was petrified by Luo Qianfan's handling, while Chang Yu praised, "The young master truly is a lord of great generosity." Jiang Chuan nervously called out, "Fairy, what are you?" Yu Yan suddenly floated closer to Luo Qianfan, wrapping her arms around him in a way that made him wonder, "When did you come here?" She spoke up, "Brother, please have some self-respect. I am now a person of Luo Qianfan and I am not familiar with you." She thought to herself, "There is no need to hold on to this man, being held by him is the same." She naturally picked up a fruit and fed it to Luo Qianfan. Jiang Chuan gritted his teeth and said, "Luo Qianfan." He pointed directly at Luo Qianfan and challenged, "Luo Qianfan, I want to duel with you." At that moment, the system girl laughed and said, "Now your method is no longer effective." Luo Qianfan was not afraid and asked, "Oh, really?" Jiang Chuan raised his sword and shouted, "Luo Qianfan, do you dare to come down and fight me?" The system girl began to throw punches in the air and continued her plan to tempt Luo Qianfan. "So, do you feel scared now? In the world of cultivating immortals, strength prevails. Even with support, if your power is insufficient, you still have to bow your head. Don't you feel a strong desire to become powerful now? Just complete the mission. I can help you become strong." Among cultivators, there will also be a hierarchy. Ordinary cultivators only dare to bully the weak. Luo Qianfan asked coldly, "Which of your eyes sees me as afraid?" High-level cultivators often look down on others, and in the end, they are still turned upside down and slapped in the face. But aside from those people, there are also those like me, peak-level elites. Jiang Chuan arrogantly asked, "Or do you want to be a timid turtle, not daring to face me?" For those at peak level, when encountering issues, they don't need to worry. Naturally, someone will be there to resolve it for them. Chang Yu frowned, glaring at Jiang Chuan, "One person, two people, all so rude to my guest. Do you really think this fairy doesn't dare to kill you? She erupted with her fire spirit energy, heating up the entire space. The other young masters turned pale with fear, trying to hide as far away as possible, whispering to each other, "The aura is truly frightening, Changyu Fairy is indeed very strong." Changyu Fairy usually only holds celestial banquets and rarely engages in combat with others. I almost forgot that aside from the title of Fairy Master, she is a dignified young spirit stage 7th realm grand cultivator. The girl was once again astonished, exclaiming, "What?" Jiang Chuan, at this moment, stammered slightly, saying, You, a great power of the 7th realm, yet you bully the weak with your strength, I do not accept this." Luo Qianfan, enjoying himself, chimed in, "How interesting, when others suppress you because of their higher cultivation, it's called bullying the weak, but now that you challenge me based on your higher cultivation while I'm yet to reach foundation establishment, what is that?" Jiang Chuan found himself speechless and unable to counter. The others also joined in to criticize him, allowing yourself to act while not allowing others to do the same. Truly shameless, the faces of swordsmen have been completely tarnished by people like this. Hearing these words, Jiang Chuan exploded in anger, "Damn it! No matter the cost, whoever stands in my way, even if it's a grand cultivator of the 7th realm, I won't be afraid." Chang Yu flew toward a tree, shouting, "Arrogant fool." He was caught off guard and was knocked back, poof. A palm struck his back, stopping him in his tracks. The appearance of the person made Chang Yu frown slightly. An elderly man with a good aura appeared and spoke softly, "Chang Yu Fairy, please be merciful." Jiang Chuan addressed this man as Master. As he began his second sentence, he became serious, defending his disciple, "Chang Yu Fairy, I do not know what my incompetent disciple has done to offend you to the point that you must strike so hard. Or is it that your treasure pavilion does not regard the Canglan sword sect at all?" Yu Yan leaned close to Luo Qianfan and whispered, "Young master, this person is the senior elder Su Chang Su of the Canglan sword sect. It is said that he has reached the Saint Peak 8th stage and has always been in seclusion, rarely showing himself. This time he must have come down the mountain specifically for his disciple." Luo Qianfan remained silent, thinking, indeed, this is a typical case of attacking the junior and pulling in the elder. The system must be going crazy now. However, the system instead burst out laughing and said, "Sure enough, the luck of the heavens has not abandoned me. This time, even with your helper, he won't be able to assist you. Let's see what you will do." Luo Qianfan, feeling dispirited, took a sip of tea and thought, "This system still does not understand who I am. What is the bearer of the golden needle?" Chang Yu spoke up, "Su Chang Su, do you want to ask your disciple first what he has done and with whom he has offended?" Su Chang Su snorted in disdain. "Even if your father, Long Zhenren, comes today, I will demand justice for my disciple." Jiang Chuan was deeply touched and called out, "Master." Luo Qianfan put down his teacup and said, "Justice? Your disciple relied on his higher cultivation to fight, Su Saint, do you think you can demand justice for me?" Su Chang Su looked at Luo Qianfan and asked, "Who are you?" As soon as Jiang Chuan saw Luo Qianfan, he jumped up and shouted, "Master, this despicable person is bullying others based on his family's background. I couldn't stand it, so I wanted to fight him." Yu Yan then jumped in to defend Luo Qianfan, retorting, "Don't turn black into white here. I truly admire the talent of Luo young master, which is why I pledged my loyalty to him. How can you casually make false accusations here?" Luo Qianfan was surprised to see her so energetic. He stood up and pulled her back, speaking, "Su Saint, after years of seclusion, it's normal not to recognize me." Yu Yan suddenly called out, "Young master." Luo Qianfan chuckled softly, clearly enunciating his name, "My name is Luo." This successfully made Su Chang Su pause and ask, "The surname Luo? What is your relationship to Luo Wuji?" Luo Qianfan arrogantly leaned on his hands and said 4 words, "He is my father." At this moment, the system still had not given up, crossing its arms and saying, "Don't resist anymore, quickly follow in the footsteps of the system. As a saint, how can you care about your family background? Only your own cultivation is your ultimate support. But she was quickly slapped in the face when Su Chang-su's enthusiastic voice rang out, "So you are the son of the family master of the Luo family? No wonder a dazzling genius like you appeared here. Oh my, is this noisy matter? Didn't the great waters push over the Long Wang temple?" Jiang Chuan, confused, cried out, "Master, you." Su Chang-su did not show mercy to his disciple and directly hit him on the head, shouting, "Useless fool, hurry up and apologize to Luo young master. Luo young master is such an exceptional figure, how could he do the things you mentioned?" The system was in chaos, confused like, "Where am I, who is this?" At that moment, Luo Qianfan waved his hand and said, "It's just a misunderstanding, unavoidable, a clear explanation will suffice." "Does Su Saint know my father?" Su Chang-su replied, while pressing Jiang Chuan's head down, "I apologize, Luo Qianfan. The reputation of the Luo family is known far and wide, I am just an anonymous person, how could I have the right to befriend you? Years ago, I was fortunate to see the demeanor of the Luo family's family master from afar, truly a celestial being, extraordinary and ethereal." "You fool, why aren't you thanking Luo young master for his leniency?" Jiang Chuan gritted his teeth, his face dark but he still said nothing. He stepped forward and then bowed his head to Luo Qianfan and said, "Luo young master, thank you for your leniency." Luo Qianfan smiled and replied, "It's just a small matter, I apologize for troubling everyone." The delicacies of the banquet were meticulously prepared by Changyu Fairy, we should not let down the exquisite dishes. Let's continue the banquet, continue the music. Jiang Chuan, as usual, was filled with hatred and charged forward with the intent to kill Luo Qianfan. He gritted his teeth in anger and shouted, "You really think I've submitted? Go die." Yu Yan panic-stricken yelled, "You despicable scoundrel." Su Chang-su seemed like his heart might drop out of his chest as he yelled, "Traitor, how dare you!" Chang Yu also worriedly said, "Luo young master, be careful." The system excitedly announced, "There's even resistance." Only Luo Qianfan remained the calmest in the whole situation, smiling lightly. The attack from that young master, when it struck down, hadn't even touched Luo Qianfan before he was stopped by Luo Qianfan's protective aura. He turned pale and exclaimed, "How can this be?" Luo Qianfan's necklace lit up, creating a shield for him, and then it generated a pressure, releasing 2 golden dragons to attack Jiang Chuan. The young masters outside were terrified at this sight, their faces turning pale, dragon energy. This is the protective charm of the ancestor dragon. The young master was sent flying, crashing against the rocky wall beside him. Luo Qianfan stroked his chin and said to the system, "Your life is short, there are too many interesting things, why hold so much hatred for these endless struggles?" The system groaned in pain and collapsed, saying, "It fundamentally cannot change the situation." Luo Qianfan nonchalantly reached out and snatched the talisman from his neck, saying, "Su Saint, poor education is the master's fault, this disciple of yours needs to be disciplined properly." Su Chang-su dared not utter a word, his face dripping with sweat as he replied, "Please, Luo young master, calm your anger. I will definitely punish this traitor and bring you justice." Luo Qianfan threw the so-called divine talisman on the ground, shattering it, and added, "You've ruined my mood. Changyu Fairy, you are the host of this banquet, how to make them compensate you is up to your discretion." Changyu bowed and replied, "Luo young master, please take your leave." She warmly saw Luo Qianfan off. However, once he was out of sight, she revealed her inner tiger and roared, "Su Chang-su, do you know how many years I have spent preparing to invite Luo young master to this banquet?" At this moment, Su Chang-su could only apologize. "Changyu Fairy, I truly apologize. It's all my fault for not managing properly." Changyu Fairy, I am willing to compensate. We will compensate all your losses." Changyu shouted loudly, "Get lost. Don't let me see you again." With that, she kicked both the teacher and the student out of the courtyard. The two stood helplessly in front of the sign for the Immortal Emperor Teaching School. Su Chang-su could only sigh in despair and said, "You have been my disciple since you were young, and your path in cultivation has been too smooth. This time, facing loss can be considered a lesson. Jiang Chuan was furious, his face darkened, and he blurted out, "Scholar." Hearing this made Su Chang-su immediately angry. "What did you say?" Unable to contain his indignation, he pointed an accusing finger at him and shouted, "I said, Master, you are a scholar. That Luo Qianfan, apart from having a good background, is just a useless person, and you, Master, even bow down to that useless person, you are worse than a useless person." Su Chang-su would not let him speak further and rushed forward, slapping him hard enough to knock out a tooth. "You are outrageous. I thought you were just momentarily confused, but now I realize you really have no brains. Have you ever thought about what consequences your sect would face if you assassinated Luo Qianfan today and actually killed him? Will the sect face any consequences?" Jiang Chuan snorted and ran off. Su Chang-su, bewildered, called after him, "Hey, where are you going?" He said quietly with a sad face, "Forget it, it's best to let him calm down by himself." He ran to a corner and swung his fist hard against the wall, cursing, "Damn it. Luo Qianfan, sooner or later, I will kill you." At that moment, a voice rang out, "Do you want to kill Luo Qianfan?" It caught his attention, and he turned around to see three men in black. He asked in confusion, "Who are you?" The leading man in black spoke up, "Who we are is not important. What matters is whether you want to kill Luo Qianfan yourself." Jiang Chuan gritted his teeth and replied quickly, "Of course. If I don't kill him, Jiang Chuan swears I won't be a human." At the Luo residence, a loud scream echoed outside, "Ah, I want to die, I want to die." It turned out that Luo Qianfan was being pampered by a maid in a spa-like fashion, his face of enjoyment saying, "Ah, this is so comfortable, I could die. Indeed, life should be lived like this." The system was still grumbling beside him, "You shouldn't give up your life like this. How can you not have a dream?" She pointed at Luo Qianfan and added, "Don't you feel ashamed of your crossover status when you waste an opportunity like this? Wasting such an opportunity, don't you feel that you can't eat well or sleep peacefully?" Luo Qianfan remained silent, thinking, it would be perfect if it weren't for this annoying system. The system continued, "The divine weapon for protection can only safeguard you temporarily, only your own cultivation is your eternal support." Hearing her words, he suddenly sat up, leaving the maid and the system in a daze. He ran off, making the system scream in excitement, thinking it had succeeded. "Oh, what? Have you realized the reality and finally decided to cultivate?" The maid also called out, "Young master." The system chased after him, flying into Luo Qianfan's room, saying, "I knew for sure that the host could still be saved." Luo Qianfan replied, "Thank you for the reminder, I almost forgot." Seeing Luo Qianfan rummaging for something, the system added, "If you like, I can remind you every day." Luo Qianfan pulled out an entire cabinet filled with 99 ancestor dragon protection rings. The system stared at the cabinet in shock as he casually picked one, put it around his neck, and said, "I haven't even changed the previous ring yet." He turned away from the petrified system and said, "Let's keep going with the massage." The system trembled with anger, saying, "How annoying. You forced me to do this. I initially wanted to treat you like a normal system." Upon hearing her words, Luo Qianfan halted, turned his head, and asked, "What do you want to do?" The system confidently presented a spiritual fruit that looked like a peach, saying, "This energy-gathering pill can refine pure energy, equivalent to 100 days of hard work for others. It only requires a little internal energy. This is a reward." Luo Qianfan thought it was going to be something impressive and coldly replied, "Not interested." The system, now fearful, pulled out a series of treasures and presented them to Luo Qianfan. "Don't you like the energy-gathering fruit? No problem, I have other things, blood coral, transformation fruit, Bodhi flower, 9-turn golden lotus. Just try a little harder, all these good things are yours." The 5th edition of the system handbook can be used to appropriately exploit and guide the host. Luo Qianfan really didn't take those things to heart and breathed out a sigh, saying, "Don't disturb me, I still need to continue with the massage." The system ground its teeth helplessly and grumbled, "You're forcing me to bring out my hidden treasure." She made a threatening gesture, took something out from her sleeve, and then held up a small basin, saying, Tada, how about this? This is the 9 transformation human flower tree. It only grows one tree every 100 years, and its branches and leaves can nourish the divine soul. Luo Qianfan stroked his chin in thought but still found it ordinary. The system heard this and was furious, shouting, "Ordinary? Do you know the value of this treasured tree? This is a rare high-grade spiritual herb." Luo Dingho, the second grandfather of Luo Qianfan, a peak-level refined pill master, came in from this side and called out, "Qianfan." Luo Qianfan bowed and greeted him, then asked, "Second grandfather, why have you come here?" Luo Dingho laughed heartily. "We came here specifically to thank you. Thanks to your previous advice on emotional matters, I have felt much closer to my fiery friend recently." He suddenly noticed the protective tree placed on the table. He stroked his chin, moved closer to take a good look, and then said, "Is this really the 9 transformation human flower tree?" The system girl, hearing this, laughed and said, "There are still people who can recognize quality goods." Luo Qianfan, not very interested, said, "Even second grandfather studies plants." The system girl, feeling frustrated, thought, "It's not even a plant." Luo Dingho unexpectedly swiped his hand and pushed the tree straight to the ground, saying carelessly, "Oh my, having this here is quite obstructive." The system cried out in a panic, "Eh?" He pulled out a bag full of items and said to Luo Qianfan, "I will use the 9 transformation human flower tree as the main ingredient to create the primordial spirit pill, which is more effective and doesn't require much effort and even has a chicken flavor." Luo Qianfan was excited, "Thank you, second grandfather." Luo Dingho smiled with satisfaction. "This bag contains around 200 or 300 pills, enough for you to eat for several years. When you've finished, come back to get more." The system girl stood aside, feeling wronged and crying as she looked at the 2 grandfathers of this family. The spiritual energy system quickly pulled out a large notebook, beads of sweat appearing on its face, thinking, "This is a major crisis, the most terrible crisis in my career." The system took out a bunch of weapons hanging on its back and confidently said, "If you don't like the celestial treasures, I still have celestial-grade fairy weapons and mysterious protective artifacts. As long as you put in a little effort, everything will belong to you." A subordinate approached to report to Luo Qianfan, "Young master, the Zhanglan sword sect has sent gifts to express their apologies." Luo Qianfan asked, "What are they?" Before him were large boxes of weapons piled up in a courtyard. The subordinate continued, "Most of them are insignificant celestial-grade fairy weapons, but among them is a Zhanglan family heirloom sword from the Zhanglan sword sect, which is not too bad." He presented the sword that he deemed usable, saying, "Please take a look, young master." Luo Qianfan rubbed his chin and hummed in acknowledgement, examining it. He turned to Yu Yen and said, "I remember you are a swordsman, so I'm giving this sword to you." Yu Yen happily replied, "Really? Thank you, young master." The spiritual energy system, furious, was biting its lip and rolling its eyes, holding a worthless celestial-grade sword, intending to hand it to Luo Qianfan while trembling with anger. The next day, the system still did not give up and held a pile of skills, saying, "I have extraordinary skills that can help you quickly become a celestial being." Luo Qianfan was uninterested. The system, having heard Yu Yen, asked, "What? You've never cultivated extraordinary skills?" "In the Sutra Pavilion of the Luo family, I have collected 3,000 celestial techniques, you can just pick a few from there." Luo Qianfan said, facing the system's incredulous gaze, "Now you are my subordinate, Luo Qianfan, so you can't embarrass me." Yu Yen replied emotionally, "Thank you, Luo young master." The system yelled in anger, tearing up the skill book in its hand, "The host is too difficult to guide this time." In a back garden, amidst a beautiful pond full of lotus flowers, Luo Qianfan was leisurely sitting in that garden. The system's usual green panel had now turned red, warning, "System malfunctioning, undergoing inspection." Luo Qianfan felt satisfaction as it announced, thinking, feeling offended, If only it were possible to break free from these constraints. Luo Wanfu's voice echoed from behind, "Don't be careless, there's a fish on the line." The fishing rod was yanked deeply below, indicating that a fish had taken the bait. Luo Qianfan pulled up the rod with a strong jerk, and a large carp flew out of the water. Luo Qianfan held the fish in his hands. Luo Wanfu approached with a smile and said, "You're quite lucky, I didn't expect you to catch a red-tailed fish. After eating it and refining it, it could be comparable to 100 years of hard martial arts training." Luo Qianfan, not very interested, tossed the red-tailed fish back into the pond and replied, "Fourth uncle, you know I'm not interested in these things." Luo Wanfu asked again, "Your father is about to exit soon. Aren't you afraid he'll scold you if he sees that your cultivation hasn't progressed in these past few years?" Luo Qianfan responded, "It's fine, if he scolds me, I'll go tell mom." Luo Wanfu laughed loudly upon hearing this. "Being so bold and eloquent like that is certainly a skill of yours." A subordinate suddenly appeared behind them, calling, "Lord." Receiving a piece of paper from that guy, Luo Wanfu pondered for a moment. Luo Qianfan then asked, "What's wrong, fourth uncle? Is there something going on?" Luo Wanfu chuckled and said, "It's nothing. I just noticed that father is about to break through, and some people can't sit still anymore. Just a bunch of fools jumping around." Another afternoon passed, and in a small courtyard by the lotus pond, Luo Qianfan was lying there, feeling restless, his eyes heavily bagged. He yawned deeply. The family status keeps rising to 999. Luo Qianfan thought, it seems that after father breaks through, he will become a true immortal, right? This world divides the ranks in a way comparable to the modern world as follows. If in the modern world there is 9 years of compulsory education, here there are 9 breakthrough realms: foundation establishment, spirit condensation, self-enlightenment, spiritual passage, fate palace, nirvana, yang spirit, saint, saint king. When you reach high school, there are 3 higher realms: quasi-emperor, emperor realm, emperor sovereign. And after entering university in the modern world, on the path of cultivating immortality, it will be 4 realms: great mystic, false immortal, true immortal, heavenly immortal, immortal. Luo Qianfan thought again, dividing the world makes people's heads numb. Isn't it just like the last life? How can I put my limited life into infinite efforts? Why doesn't that system little sister understand? Just as he was thinking, the system panel appeared again. The system has successfully upgraded itself. You have been bound to the let go. The spiritual energy system appeared out of nowhere and jumped with joy, making Luo Qianfan's heart nearly leap out. The system spoke again in front of Luo Qianfan's unwilling expression. "Congratulations host on being bound to the let go system. As long as the host completes the let go task, you can receive a special reward." Luo Qianfan's face showed apathy, and he thought again. Luo Qianfan ignored it and lay down, saying, "I won't do it." This made the system suddenly ask, "Why not?" Luo Qianfan replied, "No reason at all, I just don't want to do it." Luo Qianfan then thought, "Is this system trying so hard this time?" The spiritual energy system flailed and said, "I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. Because of you, I have changed my name. You must let go, you love to let go the most." Luo Qianfan blocked his ears helplessly and spoke to get her attention and make her stop crying. "You still haven't grasped the true principle of letting go." He propped himself up on his hands and looked at her, adding, "If letting go has a purpose, then isn't it just a form of effort?" Hearing him, the system was a bit taken aback and fell silent. She seemed to suddenly realize and said, "I didn't expect I wouldn't have any reason to refute, and I even find it somewhat reasonable." Yu Huang entered from nowhere and called out, "Lu brother." Upon seeing him walk in, Luo Qianfan was surprised and called out, "Yu Huang. Didn't your father put you under house arrest? Why are you here?" Yu Huang responded with a laugh, "Today there's a new beauty contest at Linglong Pavilion, so I sneaked out." Luo Qianfan thought of the angry expression on his father's face when he found out he had gone out and said, "Aren't you afraid your father will teach you a lesson?" Yu Huang boldly said, "It's fine," and turned to show his back, which was covered in marks, continuing, "He already gave me a lesson." Luo Qianfan was left speechless and asked, "Don't you think about bandaging?" Yu Huang asked as he approached. "Brother Lu, do you want to go to Linglong Pavilion with me?" Luo Qianfan easily understood his younger brother and replied, "Aren't you afraid that our father has set up a trap there, so you're asking me to be a shield?" Yu Huang let out a sigh and said, "Brother Lu. After that, he sniffled, his eyes welling up with tears, and looked at Luo Qianfan, saying, I really want to go to Ling Long Pavilion. With no choice left, Luo Qianfan agreed, saying, well, since I have nothing else to do, I'll go with you to see the beauty contest. Yu Huang happily responded, thank you, brother Lu. The spiritual energy system was laying flat on the ground, and she looked up at her face, which was as dark as a pot, saying, not practicing but going to the brothel to listen to music, achieving the result of giving up. While walking, suddenly Luo Qianfan's whole body shone brightly, the spiritual energy unexpectedly poured directly into him. The system also announced, receive the ritual of pouring spiritual energy onto the head, realm increases dramatically. That dazzling golden light grew larger, and the landmark shot straight up into the sky, its brightness ringing out for everyone in the city to see. On this side, Jiang Chuan was just arriving with a group of people in black. Seeing the scene, Jiang Chuan suddenly spoke up. Is this the Great Tao Resonance? One of the men in black suddenly growled in anger. Could it be that Luo Wuji is about to exit to save lives? Impossible, how could it happen so quickly? Heaven does not favor me, allowing this madman to advance to the Emperor realm and cultivate so rapidly. An elderly man in the group calmly stepped forward and said, don't panic, right now it's only the Great Tao Resonance, the tribulation clouds have not yet formed. But it seems our plan needs to accelerate. He pointed at the leader in black and ordered, keep a close watch on Luo Qianfan's movements for me. As soon as he leaves his residence, we will look for a chance to act. Hearing this, the man asked, isn't it too hasty to act now? The elderly man replied, time waits for no one. That Luo Wuji has profound foundations, and he is almost guaranteed to reach the true immortal tribulation. Only by killing his son before he saves lives and shattering his Tao heart can we harness the heavenly tribulation to severely injure him. He clasped his hands in front of Jiang Chuan and said, Jiang nobleman, the Luo family has lived for a long time, dominating a region. Whether or not this time they can eliminate this person depends entirely on you. Hearing this, Jiang Chuan also shot a determined glance in response to his words. Switching scenes to Luo Qianfan, after being drenched in spiritual energy for a while, he exhaled a few heavy breaths. Yu Huang, covered in sweat, called out, Lu. Suddenly, he joyfully rushed over to hug Luo Qianfan and exclaimed, Lu young master, what was that just now? Did you awaken a true god or summon a deity? I've never seen you practice before, so it turns out you are the kind of person who works hard in silence. Luo Qianfan, hearing this name, immediately grabbed him and shook him while explaining, it's not what you think, this was an accident, I'm not the kind of person who puts in effort. Yu Huang responded with a knowing expression, Lu brother, don't worry, I understand this act of pretending to be weak while being capable, I understand. Luo Qianfan helplessly shouted, what do you understand when I've already said everything that needs to be said? The system's spiritual energy appeared with a wicked laugh and said, congratulations on leveling up, master. Luo Qianfan, with a face as dark as a pot bottom, said, you are the one who has done some weird cleansing, right? The system chuckled and said, after experiencing the comfort of breaking through the realm, has your perspective changed a bit? Just take it slowly, little by little. Luo Qianfan frowned in disdain and thought, trying to tempt me didn't work, so now you're starting to pressure me, right? This damn system is really outrageous. In the evening in Ling Long City, the place was illuminated by exquisitely decorated lanterns. The melodious calls of the ladies inside the Ling Long Pavilion rang out continuously. Sir, come play with us, take your time, there's no rush. Beautiful lady, drink with me one more cup. A waiter rushed into the room of a beautiful woman, anxiously urging, my little ancestor, hurry up a bit. The girl, slowly applying lipstick, replied, what's the rush? The less a man can have, the more interesting it becomes. He hurriedly responded back but didn't notice that several hands of demon energy appeared from behind, looking extremely terrifying. How could it be similar? Today, the master of the Luo mansion, immortality, is different from usual. Several hands slipped into the room, grabbing the neck of the waiter and the girl, leaving both of them unable to react. A man in black entered the room, lifting both of them high, causing them to struggle helplessly. The waiter shouted in panic, but the man showed no expression as he crushed the waiter, spraying blood all over the room. The girl was so frightened by the scene that she dared not move. The man in black revealed a face that was half destroyed. The girl seemed to recognize him and softly called out, "Wu." He looked up at her, holding a small jar, and said, "Time is a bit urgent, it seems I can only let Li Mei take action." He opened the lid and let something fall from inside the small jar. The girl, referred to as Li Mei, emerged and looked at the other girl, then listened as he said, "Enter the body of this woman, get close to the target." Li Mei coldly spoke, "This time, after this, set me free." He clasped his hands and chanted, "You do not have the right to make demands of me." Li Mei screamed in pain as he pressed the seal on her. He commanded Li Mei, "Now enter the body of this woman." The girl panicked and pleaded, "No, I don't want to, please let me go." Li Mei was silent for a moment, then reluctantly entered the other girl, saying, "I'm sorry." The girl thrashed and moaned, then completely surrendered as she merged with Li Mei. She was released by the hands, and now the girl had become Li Mei. He looked at her with satisfaction and said, "Very good, quickly seize the time and rearrange the situation, the target will arrive soon." The sound of drums outside was struck, and the banquet of singing and dancing was about to begin. Luo Qianfan sat in a corner watching them, his face showing no emotion. A girl holding a glass of wine approached Luo Qianfan and said, "Young master, please have a drink." Luo Qianfan turned his head upon being addressed. Li Mei looked at Luo Qianfan and asked, "Young master, why do you look unhappy? Are you not satisfied with me?" Luo Qianfan replied, "It's nothing, just a bothersome fly. Just keep bothering me." The system heard Luo Qianfan making a jab at it and got furious. "Hey, who are you calling a fly?" Luo Qianfan darkened his face as he looked at her, thinking to himself, "It feels like this uncontrollable system will inevitably cause me trouble sooner or later. Humph, why is she so stubborn about wanting me to cultivate immortals?" Li Mei frowned and glanced at the ancestor dragon pendant around Luo Qianfan's neck. A subordinate rushed in and knelt down to report to Luo Qianfan, "Young master, a swordsman from the Zhanglan sword sect wishes to meet with you directly to express his intentions." Since Luo Qianfan had nothing to do, he said, "Zhanglan sword sect, huh? Let him in." The subordinate complied, replying, "Yes." As soon as the person entered, Yu Yan was taken aback. Luo Qianfan stood up and walked down, saying, "So it's you, back to offer treasures again? You Zhanglan sword sect really know how to make a killing." Jiang Chuan forced a smile and bowed slightly in response. "Luo Qianfan, a few days ago I was muddled and inadvertently harmed you, causing you to lose a supreme divine weapon for protection. Today, he offered treasures to atone for his sins. Then he secretly seethed, thinking, just let you gloat for a while, wait until I kill that useless person, then it will be your turn, you woman who does not value me." The subordinate brought the treasure for Luo Qianfan to see. Seeing an opportunity, Li Mei cast a bit of magic, lightly flicking her hand to nullify the divine weapon ancestor dragon. The system girl noticed what she had done, but instead of telling Luo Qianfan, she laughed heartily and said, "This is getting interesting." The spiritual energy system chuckled, flipping through her notebook, reading aloud, "The first point in the system's handbook, placing the host in life or death danger can enhance the host's dependence on the system." The system displayed a delighted expression and said, "My chance has come again." Seeing the strange face of the spiritual energy system, Luo Qianfan looked at her in confusion, thinking, what kind of foolish, wicked thoughts does this person have? The golden system appeared before Luo Qianfan, notifying, "The host is lost in daydreams, neglecting everything to receive rewards, disregarding life." Luo Qianfan looked through the spiritual energy system and warned silently, "Don't cause trouble." The spiritual energy system pretended not to hear and whistled casually. Jiang Chuan unleashed the destructive technique, thinking that now was the time. He stood upright, enforcing the law, and shouted the wind-guiding butterfly goo. The dark streams of spiritual energy, accompanied by strange insect goo, swirled around, causing everyone present to scream in fear. A guard quickly rushed out to stand in front of Luo Qianfan, vigilantly saying, "Young master, be careful." After saying this, he unleashed a powerful fire technique directed at Jiang Chuan. The flames quickly incinerated the insect goo filled with demon energy, but suddenly, 4 men in black appeared out of nowhere. The guard protecting Luo Qianfan loudly asked, "Who are you?" One man in black clasped his hands and recited some incantations. From the 4 directions, "Clear the way, do not block the decision, and let disaster befall this place." With a resounding sound, a restriction descended from above like a large iron cage. Everyone there was stunned, swaying, and fell down. A subordinate spoke up and asked, "What happened?" The guard exclaimed in panic, "It's bad, it's a restriction." He looked around and saw that each restriction was being suppressed by 4 experts. He loudly ordered his subordinates, "Those 4 are the main commanders, quickly eliminate them to break the formation and rescue the young master." Upon hearing the command, the subordinates charged forward immediately. Jiang Chuan raised his sword, a flame of leaf fire enveloping him. Smirking, he spoke and swung his sword forward. "The formation here has been established, now no one above foundation establishment can enter. Let's see how you can escape this time." Luo Qianfan remained unfazed, looking at him with a slight smile, and asked, "Have you forgotten that I am also a foundation establishment stage swordsman?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yu Yan appeared from nowhere, forcefully swinging his sword, striking at him, forcing him to quickly retreat to block the attack. His face darkened as he looked up and asked, "Are you blocking me?" Yu Yan pointed the tip of his sword at Jiang Chuan, declaring, "Now I am a person of Lu Young Master, how can I sit idly by and let you harm Lu Young Master?" He scowled, raised his sword, and huffed, saying, "All right, then I'll deal with you first." Then, the 2 rushed at each other, exchanging blows and techniques in midair. The spiritual energy system, floating nearby, said to Luo Qianfan, "Your new subordinate doesn't seem to be a match for that guy, what do you think?" Feeling a bit hopeless, Yu Huang, on the side, holding a beauty, said anxiously, "Lu brother, going out to have some fun with you has turned out to be too risky." Luo Qianfan looked over with a mocking smile, seemingly unfazed, and said, "But you really know how to cherish beauty, this goo insect still knows to protect the little beauty." The spiritual energy system floated nearby, angrily saying, "Don't ignore me." Hearing himself being praised, Yu Huang held the 2 beauties even tighter and said, "Since I was young, my father taught me that a man succeeds due to favorable timing, geographical advantages, and harmonious relationships, and failure is also due to those same factors. But if you can't protect the woman beside you, then you are completely a useless person." The spiritual energy system snorted and said, "Pretending. Wait until you realize the divine weapon that protects you has lost its effect, then you will have to seek help from me." She made up a scene where Jiang Chuan defeated Yu Yan with 1 strike. After that, Luo Qianfan was horrified to discover, panicking, "What? The divine weapon is broken, sister system help me." She pretended to be generous and bestowed strength upon Luo Qianfan, saying, "You have received the reward of abandoning your life. You will receive 5 cards to block fatal blows." Then, Luo Qianfan used that card to unleash a palm strike that defeated Jiang Chuan. After dealing with him, Luo Qianfan ran over to hug her leg, crying loudly, "Indeed, at critical moments, the sister system is the most reliable. I will listen to the sister system from now on." She imagined that scene and laughed so hard she couldn't close her mouth. Luo Qianfan looked over and was speechless, thinking, "This system is getting crazier every day." Over here, as the system imagined, Yu Yan was knocked down by Jiang Chuan, screaming. Seeing this, the system's face was filled with joy as it waited for the next scene. Jiang Chuan ignored Yu Yan lying on the ground and stepped forward, saying, "Luo Qianfan. Now it's your turn." The spiritual energy system excitedly said, "Finally, it's time for me to take action." But before she could enjoy that moment any longer, a figure suddenly teleported down from the top of the tall building. Jiang Chuan stepped back, the dust clouding his vision, making him confused as he asked, "What?" As the dust began to settle, a tall and muscular subordinate appeared, blocking Luo Qianfan. He was the guard of the Luo mansion, Su Gao, who looked down at Jiang Chuan and said, "Arrogant brat, drop your sword, and you will be spared." Jiang Chuan stammered while looking at Su Gao, "How is this possible? Wasn't it said we could hold out for at least a teapot's worth of time? How much time has passed?" Jiang Chuan turned to run, gritting his teeth and muttering, "Damn it, this can't be happening." Su Gao, his eyes filled with killing intent, chased after him. Want to run? He grabbed Jiang Chuan's head, exuding pressure, and said with a dark expression, "You want to assassinate my young master? Damn it!" At this moment, Jiang Chuan began to fearfully say, "No, no, I am a member of the Zhanglan sword sect." The spiritual energy system skeptically replied, "No, it can't be." Unexpectedly, Yu Huang's voice rang out, "Lu brother, be careful," catching her attention as she turned. Yu Yan did not expect that at this moment, Luo Qianfan would aim the tip of his sword straight at him and stab. The spiritual energy system again sowed hope within her, raising that card and saying, "I have another chance to block this fatal blow." But suddenly, a girl flew out to intercept Yu Yan's attack. She had no time to react and stared wide-eyed as the palm's strength came at her, exclaiming, "What?" She was then knocked to the ground. The girl was Ying, the personal butler of Luo Qianfan. The spiritual energy system collapsed and tossed the card to the ground. "No way, damn it, why are there so many people hidden beside him? Is this a mahjong game?" She remembered when Yu Yan received an order from someone, "Your mission is to stay close to Luo Qianfan, and when the opportunity arises, immediately assassinate him." She knelt on the ground and replied, "Yes." Then there were the moments she spent by Luo Qianfan's side trying to win his favor, thinking, "I've succeeded, this fool is really easy to deceive." When Luo Qianfan generously gifted her that sword. When receiving the sword from Luo Qianfan, she thanked him profusely but thought to herself, I wonder how you will feel when I use this sword to kill you." When it was time for Luo Qianfan to let her into the sutra pavilion of his house, she seemed extremely grateful on the outside, but inwardly she gritted her teeth, as expected of a famously foolish person. He really doesn't know the value of the sutra pavilion. Too bad the mission is more important, otherwise, would really like to take a look at the map of Luo Mansion immortality he keeps hidden. Luo Qianfan coldly looked down at the injured Yu Yan lying on the ground and said, "I thought you would continue to pretend, hiding your tail while exposing your head. You are faster than I imagined." Yu Yan, bruised all over, silently gritted her teeth and glared at Luo Qianfan in anger. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said, "People see you as a fool, but it seems they have truly misjudged you. When did you start to suspect me?" Luo Qianfan generously explained to her, "Whether it's granting you the sword or rewarding you with skills, you only use the same act of raising your brows to deal with me. I cannot sense a hint of surprise from you. It's hard to believe you are an ordinary swordsman." He slowly stepped down and added, "Right now, you have two choices in front of you. Either tell me everything you know right now, or I will find some people skilled in interrogation to torture you, and then you will spill the beans." Yu Yan gritted her teeth, resolutely stating, "Whether you want to kill me or torture me, it's up to you." Luo Qianfan indulged her. "Alright, I like this stubborn look of yours." Luo Qianfan turned to Su Gao, who was dragging the unconscious Jiang Chuan, and asked, "It seems that fourth uncle is using me as bait. I mentioned earlier why the shadow guard handed the secret letter to me right in front of her. So, what is this about this time?" Su Gao responded quickly. The guards received news that someone did not want to see the family master break through, so a group secretly infiltrated the city, intending to lead out the family master's inner demons by assassinating the young master and interfere with the family master's ability to save lives. The system's spiritual energy appeared from behind, chuckling and saying, "Ah, why do we perceive the scent of danger?" Luo Qianfan glanced back at her and thought, "Your level of eagerness is truly unstable." The spiritual energy system continued to entice, "The enemy lurks in the shadows, which is genuinely difficult to guard against. How about it? Do you feel a bit overwhelmed? At this moment, only by truly holding on to power can one be secure. So, hurry up and complete the mission, the rewards are quite generous." Luo Qianfan chuckled softly and asked her, "Do you still not understand my worth?" Hearing Luo Qianfan's remark, she looked at him with a questioning expression. Butler Ying, after dealing with Yu Yan, approached and called out, "Young master, under these circumstances, we could implement strategies 19, 45, 60, and 72 to resolve this." The system was perplexed by the mention of strategy, and didn't understand what these two were talking about. Luo Qianfan coldly turned to say, "Don't waste any more time, just proceed with strategy 72. Butler Ing nodded slightly and replied, understood. Su Gao also confusingly asked, what is strategy 72? The spiritual energy system also inquired, what is it? Butler Ing explained to Su Gao, the young master, at the age of 3, once hired 3,000 strategists. After a year, he had established a total of 167 military strategies to deal with unexpected situations that might arise in the future, including assassination and surprise attacks. After hearing this, Su Gao couldn't help but laugh and said, no wonder the young master is so far-sighted and thoughtful. The spiritual energy system, looking disheartened, said, come on, do you really need to exaggerate like that? Luo Qianfan stroked his chin and said, for things that can be thought through by others, why should I keep them for myself to worry about? That night, the Luo family directly set up a formation that enveloped the entire city. The men in black on Jiang Chuan's side were constantly talking among themselves. The curfew is in effect, the formation doesn't discriminate, everyone must stay indoors and not wander around. What should we do now? The Luo family has gone all out to use the formation to seal off the entire city. I'm afraid not even a fly could escape. We said that the assassination of Luo Qianfan was too hasty, and now we've stirred the grass and disturbed the snake. Not only did we fail to kill Luo Qianfan, but we are also stuck here. The old man spoke up loudly, enough. He stepped forward and said, at this point, we have only one option left. The other man asked, what option? He said sternly, we must fight to the end and forcefully kill Luo Qianfan. The others were surprised and asked, what? Kill Luo Qianfan. But Luo Qianfan has the official restriction veins of the Luo family in his body. That's right, killing him will result in being marked with a blood seal, and for generations, our descendants will be hunted by the Luo family. He reassured them, I know you have concerns, but we have no way out now. We cannot leave the city, it's only a matter of time before we are discovered, and when that happens, we will die anyway. Hearing him, all the subordinates fell silent, deep in thought. At this moment, Luo Qianfan was at the tall tower of the Luo family, enjoying the view and saying, it's been a while since I came up here to enjoy the scenery. Suddenly, shadows flickered and flew in. Luo Qianfan looked up in surprise and said, oh, have you been driven to a dead end? The other men bypassed the arranged formation and rushed in, shouting, want to run? Unfortunately, all paths are blocked. The 5 men in black flew in even faster. Luo Qianfan looked up in surprise but showed no fear, saying, they're targeting me. The leading man prepared to attack and said, let's strike together. The attacks were directed at the tower, and at that moment, the formation began to vibrate, and thunder started to strike down. Luo Qianfan smiled lightly and said, thunder is here, quickly gather your clothes. A bolt of lightning struck the tower where Luo Qianfan stood. Upon seeing this, he widened his eyes and said, it worked, it worked. Luo Qianfan emerged from the mist, saying, hey, this is the essence of strategy number 72, first strike the snake to make the grass move, then force the opponent to a dead end, and finally call for elder, let the thunder strike down. He suddenly looked at the person who just appeared and, frightened, said, Luo Wuji. Damn it, Luo Wuji, has he appeared already? Luo Wuji unleashed a raging true qi and disdainfully said, you little mice still think you can harm my child. As soon as he spoke, his anger erupted, releasing a powerful oppressive force that made them cry out in fear, stop him. But in less than a minute, they were spitting blood and screaming in pain. The old man widened his eyes, fearfully thinking to himself, he hasn't succeeded in saving his life, all of this is in the false immortal realm, how can there be such a great disparity? The subordinates, unable to withstand the oppressive force, quickly fled, shouting to each other, we can't fight him, run away, run quickly. Hearing this, he was startled and shouted, no, come back quickly. With no other option, he raised his hand to cast a spell, saying, since you've come, don't even think about escaping. One of them had just begun to run but had to stop in pain, stammering, Around his body, several streams of evil energy surged, and his entire body was torn apart by invisible cuts, causing him to spit blood and scream in agony. He, along with 2 close subordinates, formed a seal and grit his teeth, saying, resist. But before he could do anything, the heavenly tribulation above began to strike down. He was horrified and widened his eyes, saying, "The heavenly tribulation is about to descend." The heavenly lightning bolts did not wait for him to react and began to unleash fierce strikes. These heavenly Tao strikes were unexpectedly the thunder tribulation descending to allow Luo Wuji to save lives and give them a chance. He rushed forward and exclaimed, "Heaven is helping us. When he saves lives, take his life. Kill." Behind Luo Wuji, a gigantic and mighty guardian appeared. He had a dark face and flew high above, declaring majestically, "The courage of our family today will sever your potential." The guardian heard the command and quickly raised a palm to strike. The two forces of the guardian and him clashed. Luo Qianfan and the spiritual energy system were both watching the battle intently. After determining who would win, Luo Qianfan began to boastfully turn to the spiritual energy system and said, "Look, compared to your large fruit bags, this truly shows others the light." The system was left speechless by Luo Qianfan's words. Then he snorted angrily and disappeared. At this moment, he was severely injured, trembling as he tried to sit up. How deep is the foundation of Luo Wuji? Looking up, Luo Wuji was entirely enveloped by thunderous energy from above, causing his voice to tremble as he added, "Why is the heavenly calamity almost not affecting him?" Dark clouds began to gather in the sky. He looked up in confusion and said, "This sound, could it be the old ancestor?" A huge hand reached down from above, and seeing this, he joyfully shouted, "The old ancestor is here to save us, we are saved." Luo Wuji frowned and disdainfully remarked, "True immortal." He drew a sword from spiritual energy, not paying attention to that so-called old ancestor, and added, "Want to save someone from my hands? A mere true immortal is not worthy enough for me to go back on my word." The heavenly thunder began to change again, gradually gathering and then striking down. Luo Wuji darkened his face, raised his sword, and slashed out with a shout, "It's just a heavenly tribulation, stop bothering me." With just one sword, using less than 3 out of 7 parts of his strength, Luo Wuji directly split the heavenly thunder tribulation in half. He stared in fear at the scene, sitting down on the ground, his powerful arm trembling. It even splits apart the divine calamity. This is. He barely had time to realize the sword was slashing toward him, saying, "A false immortal, is it?" After a while, with clear skies and calm winds, Luo Qianfan leisurely walked out, saying, "This is the immortal version of the divine being, right? No more looking, let's head back." But as he stepped down, a teleportation formation appeared around him. Luo Qianfan's face was now drenched in sweat as he shouted in fear, "Teleportation." At that moment, Luo Qianfan flew up high, and he understood the situation but was at a loss for words. The teleportation suspended him high above, stopping behind Luo Wuji, who wore a serious expression. He turned to Luo Qianfan and asked, "What do you feel?" Luo Qianfan, looking disheartened, replied, Very dazzling." Luo Wuji then gathered a stream of spiritual energy and asked, "Apart from that, what else?" Luo Qianfan scratched his ear in response, "Noisy." He listened to the response and let out a sigh, then calmly said, "The heavenly tribulation of the true immortal realm is quite different from the ordinary heavenly tribulations that I know of. I stand off to the side, observing it as a way to broaden my knowledge." He threw the large round mass of gathered spiritual energy towards Luo Qianfan, continuing, "When facing an enemy, throwing this at them is much more effective than the Thunder Seal Talisman." After saying this, he fell silent and turned his face toward the thunder tribulation above. Luo Qianfan remained quiet. At this moment, the spiritual energy system appeared again, staring intently at the thunder tribulation, which prompted Luo Qianfan to ask, "Do you enjoy watching people go through heavenly tribulation? Is your relentless push for me to cultivate just to see me save lives?" The spiritual energy system avoided Luo Qianfan's gaze and replied, "No, I just have nothing." It then disappeared again. A few hours later, Luo Wanfu was leisurely pouring tea and enjoying the view. Luo Qianfan suddenly burst in, exclaiming, "Fourth uncle, this isn't right at all. It's one thing not to say anything, but are you not even using me as bait?" Luo Wanfu calmly lifted his teacup, blew on it a few times, and replied, "Fourth uncle is not like that, Qianfan, whatever you want, fourth uncle will play with you." Luo Qianfan's eyes brightened as he asked, does that mean you will accompany me with everything? Even the fishing rod that my father forged with rare materials. Luo Wanfu was at a loss for words, stammering, well. At that moment, Luo Wuji, after resolving everything, also entered, clearing his throat. He sat down on a chair, and Luo Wanfu quickly poured him a cup of tea, saying, congratulations, family master, on successfully achieving true immortal great Tao, may you enjoy immortal blessings forever. Luo Wuji responded, Wanfu, we are brothers, no need to be so formal. He looked over at Luo Qianfan and asked, have you reached foundation establishment yet? Luo Qianfan smiled awkwardly and replied, it was unexpected, just unexpected. Luo Wuji lifted his cup of tea and calmly said, it's a pity that the timing for your breakthrough was a bit late, otherwise, your cultivation would now be spirit condensation or perhaps the late stage of foundation establishment. If only you could participate in the secret realm opening of the ancient immortal academy, but having just reached foundation establishment means that even if you enter the secret realm, it wouldn't be of much use. Luo Qianfan also responded, it really is a pity. Inside, he thought to himself, the ancient immortal academy already sounds troublesome, and because of this, I definitely won't be breaking through to the late stage of foundation establishment. Luo Wuji then spoke up, startling Luo Qianfan, making his hairs stand on end, speaking of which, Qianfan, you're already of marriageable age. Luo Qianfan looked at him in confusion, stammering, what? Why are you suddenly bringing this up? Luo Wuji calmly continued, the Qin Tian dynasty has always wanted to forge a connection with our Luo family. The more I think about it, the more I feel you're the most suitable person, and it's also a good opportunity for you to temper your temperament. Soon, they will come to discuss the marriage between you two. Luo Wanfu, hearing this, was a bit surprised and asked, Qin Tian dynasty? Could it be that empress? Luo Wuji replied, that's right, Qianfan, have you heard of her? Luo Qianfan answered dejectedly, why yeah, I've heard of her. He frowned, thinking, this isn't good, the empress of the Qin Tian dynasty, Lin Wanlan, has only been on the throne for a few years and has already caused quite a stir in the court, her influence is not small. To be the husband of the empresses? Then wouldn't my peaceful life be shattered? He thought so and laughed loudly, avoiding the topic. Father, look, such a big matter should be discussed a little more. Before he could finish, Luo Wuji interrupted him, saying, this matter doesn't require further discussion. Also, don't think about looking for your mother. She always hopes you will marry soon. After some investigation, that little girl is also very pleased. Luo Qianfan wore a bored expression and thought, I can't believe that even after crossing over, I still can't escape the fate of being forced to marry. Luo Wanfu then asked, when will the announcement be made to the world regarding the family master's breakthrough to true immortal? Luo Wuji replied indifferently, you can take care of that. I just broke through, I need to seclude myself for a while to stabilize my realm. Luo Qianfan refused to give up and stroked his chin, calculating, no, I can't give up like this, for the sake of my peaceful life. Suddenly, he had an idea and stood up, hitting the table, seriously saying, Father, although this group aims to disrupt your breakthrough to true immortal, but the assassination happened right in front of me. Now, I insists on avenging it personally. Luo Wuji, skeptical, said, normally, you find these kinds of matters troublesome and don't want to get involved. Luo Qianfan exaggerated the story, replying seriously, after this assassination, I realized that some things, like revenge, are best handled by my own hands. Luo Wuji didn't stop him and said, if you truly want to take revenge yourself, then the matter is yours to handle. Luo Qianfan bowed as he left, yes, father. I'll start interrogating the captured accomplices immediately and trace the mastermind. Watching his son rush off, Luo Wuji turned to Luo Wanfu, the Qin Tian dynasty affair involves you too. What are you thinking? Luo Wanfu responded, lately, I've had too much free time, and I'm somewhat interested in taking action. But as for Qianfan's matter, I doubt he'd let me interfere. Luo Wuji sighed helplessly, then glanced up at the sky and added, today, while saving lives, I noticed that the power of the heavenly tribulation seems to have weakened compared to before. Perhaps soon we will see the scene of emperor sovereigns and false immortals everywhere. Luo Wanfu also contributed, Great Tao of 50, Heavenly Transformation of 90, the human world is full of strange phenomena, and now this one has become more expansive. For the people in the world, this may be a sign of a prosperous era of immortality that is about to arrive. The prosperous age and the chaotic age differ only by one word. Luo Qianfan, along with Butler Ing, walked down a road. He walked while thinking to himself, first, take advantage of this opportunity for revenge, then go out and avoid the storm for a while. He suddenly stopped, causing Butler Ing to look at him in surprise. He raised his hand and took out a cord from around his neck, looking at it in silence for a moment before smirking and saying, "It's a bit interesting." That's the end of this matter, see you in the next part. The spiritual energy system lay languidly, dejectedly looking at the book in front of it but letting its soul wander elsewhere. At that moment, a notification appeared, saying that after witnessing the heavenly tribulation, it didn't know why its mood had turned sour. It stared at it, then suddenly sat up and said, "I understand now." It slapped its hands on the pictures stuck to the wall. All information from the moment Luo Qianfan first learned to walk is followed by his growth, playing chess with Butler Ing. As he grew a little more, he began to indulge in pleasures and entertainment. The spiritual energy system dismissively waved at some photos, saying, "Ha, master, ever since Luo Qianfan crossed over, the system has been monitoring him closely. Finally, the master is about to start cultivating, and the system can finally be activated." Luo Qianfan joyfully lifted that power in his hand and ran off happily saying, "I did it." The system also laughed happily and said, "So adorable, are you planning to show it off?" However, unexpectedly, Luo Qianfan ran off to grill fish, which left her in disbelief. That day, the system experienced its first breakdown in its entire life. It truly did not expect him to use a skill to grill fish. "I will not let this go." At this moment, after Luo Wuji exited, Luo Qianfan was arranged for one-on-one supplementary lessons. Kong Zi was continuously reading, thus, it is said that physical fitness is very important for cultivators, but excessive physical strength will lead to a perfect state of celestial Tao, which will, on the contrary, hinder the progress of cultivation. Luo Qianfan bit his pen in frustration, even chewing on the nib, and thought, "I knew that after breaking through the foundation establishment, things would be very troublesome." Kong Zi kept talking endlessly, therefore, although the young master only has type B talent, with the foundation of the family, you definitely do not need to worry about this. You just broke through the foundation establishment, you must remember to nourish your meridians every day. The most important thing for you now is to consolidate your cultivation. Luo Qianfan quickly replied, okay, I will take care of myself diligently. After saying that, he thought otherwise, just nourishing for a lifetime, such lovely meridians, I must cherish them well. Suddenly, a sound rang out, causing him to open his eyes and glance over, only to unexpectedly find it was a notification from the system that made him cough up blood in anger. Completed a class for formality, primordial energy plus 137. Kong Zi asked eagerly, "Young master, what's wrong?" Luo Qianfan rushed away, blood in his mouth, and replied, "Nothing, just my meridians suddenly filled." Luo Qianfan then thought to himself, "Too complacent, I thought the system had been quiet during this time. I didn't expect to be surprised by an attack at this moment." Kong Zi went to take the pulse of Luo Qianfan and then breathed a sigh of relief, saying, "Fortunately, it's just an unstable aura." Luo Qianfan said, "I'm not feeling very well today, let's end our studies here." Kong Zi replied, "Yes, young master, please rest well." He returned to his room and closed the door, glancing back and saying, "What do you want to do now?" The spiritual energy system smiled cheerfully and said, "After interacting with the host last time, I understood that as a failed system, all the missions I issued were destined to fail. There are serious flaws in the setup, so I learned from the experience and created a set of missions tailored to your daily life based on the host's habits. From now on, the host won't need to worry about missions anymore, just take a look." Luo Qianfan was at a loss for words. You really have a strong ability to comprehend. In the following days, he played games with friends once and enjoyed himself. During the summer, gaining 99 primordial energy, and after savoring a meal, gaining another 183 primordial energy. Luo Qianfan picked up a piece of meat with trembling hands, hearing the system announce, "Congratulations to the host for elevating the realm to post-foundation establishment." He was so furious that he slammed the chopsticks and the bowl down on the table, recklessly facing it, shouting loudly, "Fine, if you have no shame, don't blame me for having none either." Two subordinates were busy hauling in some very large boxes. The large boxes were placed in front of the house. Butler Ing said, "Young master, for now, we can only gather these items." Luo Qianfan stood there and replied, "This should be enough for the time being." He lifted up a jar and opened the lid with a greedy expression, making the spiritual energy system curiously ask, "What are you planning to do?" Luo Qianfan, while showing his greed, said, "You will find out soon." Saying that, he directly tilted his head back and swallowed the entire jar of pills. Inside Luo Qianfan's meridians, the spiritual energy was disrupted by the pills, his physical condition was immediately improved, but his cultivation severely dropped. The spiritual energy system suddenly gasped, bewildered and shocked, saying, "I never expected that you wanted to lower your cultivation by enhancing your physical condition." Luo Qianfan gleefully opened 2 bottles with both hands and said, "Do you think this is the end? Tell the kitchen not to prepare dinner for me." The subordinate immediately replied, "Yes." The spiritual energy system cried out in protest, "Please don't, master." In the deliberation hall, the family master Luo Wuji, hearing Kong Zi's report, asked with some doubt, "Are you saying my son, in order to quickly break through to the late foundation establishment stage to enter the ancient immortal academy, has forced himself to the point of blood qi surging and spitting blood?" Kong Zi stroked his beard and laughed, saying, "That's right, the young master is truly working hard." Luo Wuji, also pleased, said, "All right, it's rare for my son to try this hard. As a father, how can I let him down? Go to my treasury and bring me the 9 transformation breakthrough realm pill. I want to personally help my son break through to the late foundation establishment stage." Kong Zi immediately bowed and replied, "Yes." That evening, in front of the house lay a pile of empty bottles. Luo Qianfan was gasping for breath on the ground, and the system announced, "Constitution level 99%, mid-foundation establishment realm." Luo Qianfan heard the system announcement and nodded in approval. "Just a little more and I would have reached the pinnacle of the immortal path. With my current physique, breaking through to the later stage of foundation establishment might be just as difficult as breaking into the self-enlightenment realm." He sighed contentedly and sat up, saying, "You dare challenge me, little one?" The spiritual energy system was at a loss for words with this host. At that moment, Luo Wuji approached and called out, "My child." Luo Qianfan turned his head in surprise and replied, "Father." Luo Wuji exhaled as he looked at Luo Qianfan and said, "I heard that you are worried about breaking through to the later stage of foundation establishment. Look at you, your complexion has worsened in just a few days. You can blame your father for putting too much pressure on you." He took out a pill and said, "Here, the 9 transformation breakthrough realm pill produced by the treasure pavilion can help a cultivator below the 4th stage of the breakthrough realm not be affected by breaking through the realm twice. Previously, I was worried that your mindset wasn't strong enough and didn't want to let you use the pill's power for the breakthrough." Luo Qianfan was stunned, his face turning pale. Luo Wuji then said, "But today is not like before. You have proven your determination to seek the Tao, now is the appropriate time." The system girl also looked surprised at Luo Wuji, but when she heard him speak, her expression brightened. "Quickly drink it, don't worry about the potency of the medicine, I will personally help you neutralize its effects." Luo Qianfan helplessly shouted, "No, how can you harm your own son like this?" Just like that, in one night, Luo Qianfan entered the 2nd realm, self-enlightenment realm. At Ling Long Pavilion, the guards protecting Luo Qianfan and his subordinates barged through the door. Li Mei furrowed her brow and asked, "Who is it?" The boy bowed and replied, "Under the command of the young master, we are here to rescue the flower of the brothel." The people outside, not understanding the situation, buzzed, "What's going on? Early in the morning they are storming a brothel to capture the flower of the brothel. Who is so domineering that it needs no guessing?" In this city, which household dares to act so arrogantly? Of course, it can only be the one and only young master of the Luo mansion, immortality, Luo Qianfan. The guard gestured for her to step outside and said, "Flower of the brothel, please come this way. This matter has occurred rather suddenly. Our young master is worried that the mistress will feel lonely without anyone by her side, so he specifically instructed us to bring back all the servants by her side. That old man is also among the subordinates being retrieved and quietly transmitted. Don't be too excited, calmly observe the situation. On that day, you secretly contaminated the divine weapon, so he may not suspect you." Li Mei pondered, said nothing, and then lowered her head to respond, "Thank you Lu young master for understanding. Without you I would really be worried that Luo Mansion would feel strange without anyone to talk to." The bodyguard replied, "Mistress, you misunderstood, this trip is not to Luo Mansion." Li Mei was surprised and asked, "If not to Luo Mansion, then where are we going?" At this moment, outside Ling Long Pavilion, something suddenly blocked the light, causing everyone to look up in confusion. People wondered and asked each other, "Hey, what is this?" The man, hearing the question, replied, "Don't you know, that is the Heaven Sea Pearl of Departure of Luo Mansion Immortality, a 5th grade immortal magic tool, not sure what grade this ship belongs to. It is said that 20 years ago, the Lu family master used this ship to cross 3 areas in one night, transforming millions of miles, annihilating the top 3 sections. Just thinking about it is enough to get people excited. Monks like us should do just that. If we were to sell monks like us for spirit stones, I fear it would not be enough for this ship to fly for 5 measures. Taoist friend, are you cultivating the supreme void emotionlessness? Why does your speech sound so heart-wrenching?" Above the flying ship, Butlering approached to ask the young master, "Why are we in such a hurry to depart? The interrogation work has not made much progress yet. We have only discovered the presence of forces from the southern borders and the western desert behind it." Luo Qianfan, with a grim expression, said, "Time does not wait for us, we cannot stay here temporarily, or I fear there will be another disaster." Butler Ing, upon hearing Luo Qianfan's words, couldn't help but feel self-reproach, saying loudly, "It is my inefficiency that has allowed those petty men to disturb the young master. Please punish me, young master." Luo Qianfan sighed and replied, "No, you have done very well, the disaster I mentioned is not those rats." Recalling the spiritual energy system appearing, he said, "Isn't this our master? Do you have cultivation self-enlightenment realm, host lord, good morning." The more Luo Qianfan thought about it, the darker his face became, thinking, "If I stay at home for too long, perhaps my father will collude with this system and scheme against me. It's not easy to be confused." He sighed, and Luo Qianfan took a step down, continuing to speak to Butlering, "We must also have some spirit of improvisation, let's consider it a surprise revenge trip." Butlering replied, "Young master, the flower beauty and those beside her have all been taken onto the ship, everything is arranged, the other party probably still has some luck during this time not to notice anything unusual." Luo Qianfan said again, "Good, let's go, and meet the guests we have invited." Butlering answered, "Yes." Li Mei stood by the window looking outside, she remembered those 2 people who were hunting demon spirits. Haha, really lucky, caught another demon spirit, a good item, bring it back to sell for some wine. She recalled the situation where she was sold and beaten, tortured. Don't be lazy. The Forest Demon Spirit Clan has 3 opportunities for coexistence in their lifetime. You are natural spies. You must master the ability to disguise yourselves as anyone to fully unleash the talents of your clan. At this moment, Luo Qianfan entered and said, "It's very beautiful, wait a while until we reach the Jin Luo Mountains. At night, the sky will present a chance to see a marvelous scene with the mysterious aura of the Tao, even more beautiful." Li Mei asked, "Has young Master Lu seen the mysterious aura of the Tao before?" Luo Qianfan replied, "I've never seen it, I've only read about it in books." Li Mei then asked, "So how does young Master Lu know that the scene will be beautiful?" Luo Qianfan chuckled and said, "Because I'm about to go see it, so I'm betting that it will be beautiful." Li Mei looked a bit puzzled and asked, "Aren't you afraid that the greater your expectations, the greater your disappointment?" Luo Qianfan replied, "At least I hope it will bring me joy throughout this journey." Li Mei gently raised her hand and said, "So young master, She wrapped her arms around him and softly said, "What are your expectations of me?" Luo Qianfan asked back, "Expectations that I have for you." Luo Qianfan wrapped his arms around Li Mei's waist, causing the spiritual energy system to blush. He said, "Maybe someone who enjoys creating chaos in the world." Li Mei asked, confused, "What does it mean to enjoy creating chaos in the world?" Luo Qianfan mischievously smiled and asked, "Do you want to know?" Then, clothing suddenly flew everywhere, and pleasant sounds emerged, causing the spiritual energy system to blush. She raised the tablet and shouted, "Congratulations, host has achieved a dual cultivate across species, primordial energy plus 1646. The lights flickered inside a room. After a moment, Luo Qianfan sat up from the bed, adjusting his clothing. He smiled lightly at the system notification and thought, breaking through a realm isn't always a bad thing. With my current cultivation and my own ninefold body, the resources needed to break through a realm for smaller sects would be a huge number. Luo Qianfan looked at the gasping spiritual energy system, and he stared blankly at the message displayed. "Congratulations, Master has achieved a dual cultivate across species, primordial energy plus 1646. He was stunned and said, "Across." Years later, people would prove it. This day is marked as the day of establishing relations between the forest demon spirit clan and the human clan. 2 days later, Luo Qianfan and Butlering entered a certain forest. He stood there admiring the scenery, feeling cheerful as he said, "This is the legendary maple forest, right? It's truly marvelous. The books say that if you stand at the center of the maple forest." Butlering suddenly noticed something. Luo Qianfan, still unaware, said, "You can simultaneously experience the beauty of the 4 seasons, let's go find out." Butlering alertly called back, "Young master, do you hear something?" She pointed in one direction and said, "Over there." The two hurriedly made their way in that direction and hid behind a bush to observe the situation. An old man stood high up, reciting some incantations to 3 children kneeling below. "Evil and turbid air, fetid impurities, like soul's refining essence, the shape of tears forms shapes, command me not to change. May blessings and longevity be complete." One of the children, curious, peeked a glance, then yawned at the long incantations that sounded like a lullaby. Suddenly, he shouted, "Bad karma." His eyes red with rage, he looked fiercely and said loudly, "You have no immortality, no fate with the immortals, so come and be my food." As he finished speaking, spider-like legs began to sprout from his stomach. The 3 children were dumbfounded at this sight, staring at him. He created a small cocoon, constantly saying, "Not enough, still lacking 2 parts." The children, feeling scared, began to run away. He laughed maniacally, saying, "No immortals, food, it's all food." One child, while running, suddenly tripped and fell face down into the snow, which allowed the old man to come over and say, "Little girl, why are you running? Don't you want to cultivate immortals?" The child looked at him in fear and said, "You are a fraud, you don't actually teach me how to cultivate immortals." He slowly approached, his voice echoing, "I am imparting the immortal arts to you, teaching you how to practice, isn't that teaching you how to cultivate immortals? It's just that your immortals are too weak to enter the realm. You no longer have a way to access the sect, helping me cross the river doesn't mean you can't come to this world." As he spoke, he widened his chest, revealing several horrifying spider legs, causing the girl to scream in terror. A sword beam suddenly flew in from somewhere, drawing his attention. He rolled over to avoid a deadly blow. The sword was pinned to the ground, and he was furious at the interruption, shouting, "Where do you come from?" At that moment, Butlering slowly stepped out, saying, "Our young master said you are disturbing his enjoyment of the outing and ordered me to deal with you. Get up, don't hide." He was not afraid and charged forward, shouting, "Arrogant." Butlering also retaliated by lunging forward with the spear. He widened his eyes in surprise, narrowly dodging a powerful spear thrust, only to be struck in the face by a kick, causing him to fall backward. She landed on the ground gracefully and did not give him a moment's rest, charging forward and asking, "What did you just say?" "Don't want to." She thrust the spear in her hand and added, "Cannot not want." The girl watched without blinking, exclaiming, "So impressive." Luo Qianfan's voice came from behind, "Once you're done fighting, you can take a break." The girl turned back in shock, screaming, "A ghost." Luo Qianfan, displeased, called out, I designed many extremely cool lines for you, and what the hell is this, cannot not want. She glanced at him and said, just a little touch and you've already forgotten. She looked at the vaporizing corpse of the man and frowned as she said, is it an outer transformation? Luo Qianfan also looked at him and said, run so fast, let the guards go down to the ship to search a bit according to the plan that was made earlier. Butler Ing replied, yes. Then she turned and asked the little girl sitting on the ground, little girl, where do you come from? The little girl immediately knelt and replied, I am from Xin Yang village. Butler Ing asked again, do you know the way back home? The little girl replied, I do not know. It was my father who brought me to find the immortal master to cultivate. Luo Qianfan frowned and said, there is no immortal master, just an overdue Taoist. The little girl widened her eyes and stammered, but there are indeed people who have successfully cultivated to become immortal masters. That fraud said we are not immortal, so we cannot cultivate to become immortals. Butler Ing ignited a sound transmission talisman and said to Luo Qianfan, young master, someone has already contacted us through the communication device on the ship. He replied, got it. Butler Ing continued to stare intently at the little girl. Then she whispered to Luo Qianfan, young master, this little girl has fallen victim to the bridal curse. Luo Qianfan, confused, asked, the bridal curse? What is that? Butler Ing immediately explained to him. This is a very malevolent type of spell that can embed a strand of primordial energy in the form of a seal into those who have practiced cultivation. Based on this curse, even without sensing the primordial energy of heaven and earth, one can still cultivate, but this primordial energy still has an owner. The owner of the seal can absorb this primordial energy at any time, so no matter how much you cultivate, it only serves to make the other person wear a wedding dress. This sorcerer likely does this to improve the physical condition of these children so they can easily become bait for him. Luo Qianfan asked, is there any drawback to this method? Butler Ing replied, this method is inherently damaging to the foundation of the cursed individual. If severe, it can shorten their lifespan. The little girl suddenly looked at Butler Ing with determination and then said loudly, immortal sister, I want to take you as my master. Making her glance over in surprise. The girl said, please teach me how to cultivate immortals. With a somewhat surprised expression from Butler Ing, it was a nosy face from Luo Qianfan. At that moment, Luo Qianfan's subordinates also got off the boat, pulling out the cocoons made by that overdue guy, inside which were all innocent children. Su Gao cut open a cocoon, examined the person inside, then shook his head and said, this one won't do either. The girl began to cry anxiously, saying, the bridal curse, does that mean I can no longer cultivate immortals? Butler Ing sat down and replied to the girl, yes, that's right. Once you are hit by this curse, in the end, all your cultivation achievements will be taken away by others. Hearing this, the girl cried even louder and threw herself into Butler Ing, who comforted her by holding her in his arms. Luo Qianfan also sighed quietly, lamenting, indeed, no matter which world it is, people cannot escape the fate of being exploited. Butler Ing looked over at Luo Qianfan and asked, young master, how should we arrange for this young girl? Upon being asked, Luo Qianfan replied, take her along, and once we enter the city, have Su Gao and the others inquire about where her village is. Su Gao after a while approached and bowed to report, young master, the children have all been buried, what should we do with this altar? Luo Qianfan waved his hand and said, clean it up thoroughly, it looks unpleasant to the eye. He looked up into the distance and remarked, what a pity that human greed has destroyed this marvelous scenery. The next day in Luguang City, Li Mei and Luo Qianfan strolled through the city. She admired the scenery and said, Luguang City is indeed very lively. Luo Qianfan smiled lightly and said, it's not always this lively. Today happens to be when they celebrate the deity, and soon there will be a parade with the deity's statue. Butler Ing and the little girl behind chimed in, this isn't really luck. Li Mei, hearing this, turned in surprise and huffed. Butler Ing continued, the young master specifically hired a group of casual cultivators who often venture outside, to adjust the itinerary based on the situation on the road, in order to achieve the best travel experience. Li Mei awkwardly smiled and complimented, your actions are truly, really considerate, young master. The spiritual energy system makes me want to bleed from my liver, huffing and saying, you fool, why not use that time to ask your strategist to help you plan your cultivation better? Luo Qianfan suddenly noticed something and looked over, only to see the girl's dark and sad expression. Luo Qianfan approached, bent down, and said, "If you're going out to play, don't have such a gloomy face. There are many interesting things in this world besides cultivating immortals. Come on, smile." The girl, hearing this, grew even sadder and replied, "Young master, I can't cultivate immortals. I'm just a useless person, how can I smile?" Upon hearing this, Luo Qianfan fell silent and said nothing more. After a while, the girl smiled joyfully as she was experiencing some game that made her feel like she was flying in the sky. She spun around for a moment and then said, "Young master, I'm so dizzy, I can't spin anymore." Luo Qianfan chuckled lightly and, raising his hand to perform something, said, "Indeed, it's still just a child's mentality." At that moment, someone unexpectedly appeared and shouted loudly, "Qing He." As soon as the girl saw that person, she joyfully called out, "Father." The little girl quickly jumped down and ran over to hug the man, calling, "Father." He was also surprised and asked, "Qing He, weren't you cultivating with Immortal Master? How are you here?" His expression changed momentarily as he pushed the girl away and pressed, "Did you sneak out?" Qing He, frightened, quickly replied, "Father, it's not like that, Immortal Master is actually a fraud." Before she could finish, he struck her directly on the face, shouting, "You insolent child." This incident caused Luo Qianfan and Butler Ing to furrow their brows and glance over. He continued to yell at the girl in front of everyone there, "Have you gone mad? How dare you slander Immortal Master here? I've paid a lot for you to cultivate immortality, and this is what you've learned." Qing He felt wronged, her eyes brimming with tears, saying, "Father, I'm not lying, Immortal Master has cast a spell on us, I can't cultivate immortality, I will never be able to cultivate immortality." The more he heard, the angrier he became, saying, "You." Suddenly, he glanced over at Luo Qianfan. He turned back to Qing He, trying to explain to her, "Little girl, don't listen to what others say. The so-called talisman, the Immortal Master said, is because your talents are insufficient, only by cursing you can you cultivate immortals." The girl listened in shock and asked, "Father, did you know beforehand that the Immortal Master would curse us?" He tried to influence her, saying, "Cultivating immortals is such a good thing. How could one cultivate immortals without paying a price, little girl?" Suddenly, a voice said, "We're here," which made him stop talking. At this moment, a statue known as the idol appeared in the street, and the parade below was murmuring about that statue, with laughter ringing out continuously. Qing He trembled in fear as she looked at the statue and said, "Immortal Master, why is it him?" He saw that the girl had not yet knelt down and quickly said, "Qing He, hurry and kneel, do not disrespect the Immortal Master." Everyone knelt down in unison, and the eyes of the statue began to shine in a most unusual way. Butler Ing noticed that things were not looking good and stepped in front of Luo Qianfan, saying, "Young master, be careful, this stone statue is not suitable." Suddenly, its eyes opened wide, then it broke into a strange smile, and the entire crowd below was hypnotized by its gaze. The people on the street at this moment were all hypnotized. Butler Ing raised his hand and cast the spell, "Thin so thap huing truck not." A man standing on the statue looked down and noticed. He pointed down at Butler Ing and shouted, "What are you trying to do?" Butler Ing executed the spell upwards and said, "Go." The spell struck directly into one side of the statue's face. The people carrying the statue below were knocked down by debris falling from above and yelled out. The man above was also injured and angrily shouted, "You dare to ruin the statue of the Immortal Master." The statue had lost one eye but still had its hands clasped together, performing the spell, Fuk Tho Vin Tri. The people below seemed to feel a surge of power entering their bodies, and a red mark appeared on their foreheads. One man clenched his fist, surrounded by an aura of evil power, laughed loudly and said, "Is this the feeling of cultivating immortals? Haha, it's truly amazing." The necklace around Luo Qianfan's neck suddenly emitted light and flew up. Butler Ing stepped back to shield Luo Qianfan and said, "Young master, it is the bridal curse, this statue is casting the bridal curse on everyone." He glanced at the crowd of people outside who were snarling as if possessed, and said, "No wonder, they all find it strange. The seal flew over, appearing on the foreheads of Butler Ing, Luo Qianfan, and Li Mei. The voice of the statue resounded, laughing heartily, "You cannot escape." Butler Ing frowned and turned back, saying, "Not good, young master." Luo Qianfan, lacking any real expression of concern, said, "Yeah, I can sense it too. But it seems like the change is not significant." Inside the system space, red warning alerts lit up. The spiritual energy system, using all its strength, gnawed at the red sign with its powerful teeth, saying, "Where did this bastard come from? Don't even think about stealing my host." The statue surged with a clear evil force, and the man turned to look. Upon seeing it, he gritted his teeth in anger and said, "It's actually the statue of the immortal master." He pointed and ordered the crowd below, "Capture these people. The immortal master has shown compassion towards us by granting us the divine sect, and you still don't know how to be grateful. You dare to defile the statue of the immortal master. Quickly capture them for the immortal master's sacrifice." A green-haired man stepped forward, his large and sinister figure saying, "Let me open up, I'll use you all to test the new power I just gained." But before he could finish speaking, a spear appeared from nowhere and struck him hard in the face, sending him flying 1,000 meters away. The person was none other than Butler Ing. She boldly shouted at him, "Get lost." She frowned with worry, thinking to herself, "The bridal curse is starting to take effect, my power is being drained by that demon spirit." One man stepped forward and spoke to those behind him, "She dares to resist, let's take her down together, the immortal master is watching us." Butler Ing was not afraid of anyone and charged at them, delivering a spear thrust to each one. As she swung the spear and attacked, she thought to herself in confusion, with the cultivation of that demon spirit, he shouldn't be able to use such a large-scale bridal curse. Doesn't he fear his own body collapsing? The eyes of the statue remained fiery red, but at this moment, it glanced down. It looked straight at Luo Qianfan, who was standing there in a daze. The mark on his forehead kept glowing brightly. At the same time, within Luo Qianfan's body, the spiritual energy system was clenching its fists and gritting its teeth against that surge of power, saying, "Stop underestimating others." She raised both hands and declared loudly, "The mission ends here." The system interface appeared, causing Luo Qianfan's eyes to widen as he continuously heard the notifications. Host did not resist being robbed of primordial energy. Received double replenishment of primordial energy plus 414, primordial energy plus 274, primordial energy plus 642, primordial energy plus 570, primordial energy plus 245, primordial energy plus 224. Luo Qianfan, on the contrary, angrily growled at the system, "Don't make my body your fighting arena." The spiritual energy system rubbed its forehead and said, "No, don't underestimate the impoverished system of fighting energy." Outside, Butler Ing was showing signs of exhaustion while trying to fend off the crowd. She refused to give up, swinging her spear to strike, and she clasped her hands to chant, prospering 10 flames, but the mark on her forehead glowed, preventing her from casting any spells. Fatigued, she drove the spear into the ground to support herself. The crowd noticed that she was showing signs of exhaustion and said to each other, "She won't make it, everyone charge in now." Butler Ing, with a pale face and gritting his teeth in helplessness, thought, "This is bad, to have drained my primordial energy so quickly." The little girl Qing he rushed in from somewhere, blocking Butler Ing, and bravely said, "Stop, you have all been deceived by the words of the immortal master." The seemingly refined guy pointed his sharp gaze at the little girl and said, "Little girl, you seem to be on the same side as those people, all trying to undermine the immortal master's teachings." The girl was a bit flustered, turning to her father as she spoke, everyone, Dad, why? Why do you all want to be prey for the immortal master? Why don't you doubt the words of the immortal master?" A hand rested on her shoulder, accompanied by a calm voice, "Because what you say, they all understand well." Qing he looked at Luo Qianfan and asked, "Then why?" Luo Qianfan explained, "Because they do not dare to refuse. Because they fear that if they refuse and others agree, how can they be sure that their decision is the most correct? It is the most terrifying consequence in the world. Once you have seen it, you will inevitably have to continuously fill that stomach, even if the price to pay is everything you have." Qing he asked in confusion, "Is there really no way?" Luo Qianfan chuckled lightly, "Of course there is. Qing He quickly inquired, what is it? Luo Qianfan sneered and casually replied, there's nothing else to do but to let go. Qing He listened, visibly puzzled, while the spiritual energy system also lost interest in responding. Qing He widened her eyes and asked again, let it all go. Young master, is it really that simple? Luo Qianfan explained to the girl, little girl, letting go is not an easy task. For many people, it is a lifelong obsession that they cannot release. The blue-haired boy, hearing Luo Qianfan's words, angrily pointed and said, what do you understand? You wear brocade embroidered with flowers and have a cultivator as your bodyguard, it's all so glorious. How can you understand the suffering of us, those who have no way into the immortal path? While speaking, he held his head, all for a single word, immortal. I have squandered my fortune, my wife and children are estranged, all just to join the immortal sect. Guess what the result is? What did the people in the immortal sect say to me? He recalled the moment the immortal master told him, you have inferior talent and cannot cultivate immortals. Leave soon and don't waste your effort. The more he spoke, his eyes filled with hatred, he huffed. A lifetime of effort mocked by a child with just 4 words. Can you guess how I felt then? Unwillingness filled my heart, nearly suffocating me. Luo Qianfan remained calm after he finished speaking, well, congratulations. Upon hearing this, he asked in confusion, what? Luo Qianfan looked at him, you yearn to cultivate immortals so much, and now you finally get to experience the taste of cultivating immortals. Shouldn't this be the happiest moment of your life? So I congratulate you. He shouted again, not enough. I am still not satisfied. I want to be stronger. I want to find the immortal sect that abandoned me years ago so they can regret it. I also want to find my wife and children who left me, so they know I have cultivated immortals now. I still want. The expression on Father Qing He seemed a bit clearer. The green-haired man, clutching his face, shouted frantically, I still want. Luo Qianfan scoffed and provoked him, see, I told you that you are food. The man crazily rushed forward, shouting, I will kill you. Butler Ing, worried, quickly picked up the spear and called out, young master, but unexpectedly, Father Qing He threw a punch at him, sending him flying far away. Qing He joyfully called, Father, and Father Qing He looked at his hand in his fist and said to Qing He, cultivating immortals is indeed an interesting thing. With this strength, I could easily defeat even a mountain bear. I don't quite understand what young master is saying, something about being food, but it surprisingly made me realize something. Qing He cried out and ran to hug his father, who gently comforted him, Father actually doesn't want much. I just want Qing He to live well, and I hope to have the ability to protect you forever. What is cultivating immortals anyway? As he spoke, his body gradually withered away, but he still smiled, Father doesn't care. Luo Qianfan furrowed his brows as he looked at the current situation. The green-haired man crawled out from the pile of rubble, laughing heartily and said, the immortal master has punished you. But he was also itching with the scene before him as he called out, immortal master. Before his eyes and those of others, they were all drained of life force and spiritual energy, withering into walking corpses. Butler Ing quickly rushed forward, this is bad, and then sat down to try to gather spiritual energy. The spiritual energy system appeared and said to Luo Qianfan, be careful. Luo Qianfan said nothing and gave her a confused look. Seeing this glance, the spiritual energy system angrily asked, why are you looking at me? I'm helping you restore primordial energy, and you're blaming me? A chilling voice echoed, pristine primordial energy, abundant and flowing spiritual energy. Qing He, with her eyes also turned completely white, stood frozen, causing her father to worry and call out, little girl, what's wrong with you? The green-haired man laughed loudly, I never expected that heaven would be so kind to me, allowing me to meet you today. You have a rare talent for cultivating immortals. Luo Qianfan glanced around and said, exploiting. Exploitation, plus psychological control. You really are quite cruel. Li Mei behind also showed signs of wanting to speak, such blessings and fate in cultivating immortals, if you cannot hold on to them, it would be better to leave them to me. Qing He acted similarly, trying to cling on to Luo Qianfan and said, Let me use your flesh and bones to brew a pot of great medicine. Luo Qianfan chuckled lightly, reaching out to push Qing He's head away and said, seeing you so devoted, I also feel a bit reluctant to bother you. What makes you think you have me secured? At this moment, a flying boat was hovering above. This concludes the story. See you in the next chapter.